All right, today we're going to dive into historian Victor Davis Hanson's strategic breakdown of the Republican Party's path to the midterms, and he sees it as this high-stakes journey, one filled with some incredible opportunities, but also some really critical dangers.
So this really brings us to the core question that Hanson is wrestling with. For the party that's not in the White House, what does that path to victory actually look like? Is it just a straight shot, or is it something way more treacherous? To get a handle on this, he uses this amazing metaphor to guide us.
Hanson frames his entire analysis around this one really powerful idea, navigating a narrow mountain pass. And it's a great way to picture the whole political landscape, right? It really sets the stakes for everything we're about to talk about.
Okay, so let's really break this down. Imagine you're on this path. On one side, you've got all this room to move. That's your clear shot to winning the midterms. But on the other side, whoa, it's a sheer drop. One wrong move, one misstep, and politically, you're toast. All right, so let's be brave and peek over the edge of that cliff. What are these dangers that Hanson is talking about? What are the mistakes that could just send a campaign tumbling down into that political abyss? Hanson really zeroes in on three main dangers. First up, what he calls unforced errors, like controversial social media posts that could really tick off those crucial independent voters. And that leads right into the second danger, losing precious weeks to bad press, forcing you to play defense instead of offense. And then there's the big one, just the sheer weight of history itself. And this quote right here, it just nails the real cost of those errors. You see, what he's getting at is that certain things you might say online can really turn off those independent voters. And the price you pay is huge. You either lose their votes outright, or you burn up valuable campaign time trying to clean up the mess. The big takeaway here is that managing how people see your message is just as important as the message itself.
Okay, now let's talk about that historical headwind. Look at this number, 3. That's it. Only 3 times in the last 100 years has the party in the White House actually gained seats in a midterm election. History is basically screaming that the president's party is going to lose seats. That is a massive hurdle to clear.
Okay, so that's the scary part, right? The steep, dangerous drop. But remember, there's another side of this path. Hanson says there's ample room for a midterm win, and it's because of some pretty significant assets. So let's see what's on the safe side of the trail. So according to Hanson, there are 4 key things working in their favor. First, an economic agenda that he thinks is going to be a game changer. Second, a really tactical opportunity when it comes to immigration enforcement. Third, and this is a big one, a huge fundraising lead. And finally, the chance for some major wins on the world stage.
Let's zoom in on the money for a minute. According to Hanson's analysis, we're not talking about a small lead here. Republicans were apparently outraising their opponents by a factor of 3 or even 4 to 1. And he says it's not just small donors, he's pointing to a potential shift where the billionaire class might be moving away from the Democrats. That's a ton of financial firepower.
Now this is a really fascinating strategic point. Hanson lays out 2 very different ways to handle immigration enforcement. On one hand, he says going into uncooperative blue state areas leads to confrontations and, frankly, bad optics. But he suggests another play. Focus on big roundups in cooperative red state areas. He argues this gets you great publicity because you're seen enforcing the law, but without all that televised conflict. You can see it's a purely tactical argument, all about controlling the story.
So, you've got this dangerous path, but you've also got some real advantages. How do you actually walk that line and get to the other side? Well, Hanson boils it all down to a few key pieces of advice.
Hanson's strategy really comes down to 3 steps. First, pick your battles. Focus on places where you can get a clear win, like that immigration tactic we just talked about. Second, you got to go into this with the mindset that you are going to break the historical pattern to create a whole new precedent. And third, and this might be the most important of all, you have to control the message. He even throws out this idea of having a social media czar to basically proofread everything and stop those unforced errors before they even happen.
And all of this really leaves us with one big final question. It's the whole point of Hanson's analysis, really. In today's political world, can you be so disciplined, so strategic with your message, that you can actually build a force strong enough to overcome a century of historical precedent? That's the real question at the heart of this perilous path.